Today, as the coach began to pull away, I looked through the glass and saw my mother still turning her head, searching for me in the crowd. She held an old cloth bag close to her body. She looked so small, and more than half of her hair had already turned gray. There was almost nothing in the bag, except a few clothes and some money I had just slipped into her hand. I stood there, loving her so much that my chest hurt, while also realizing that some wounds still do not heal, even after more than 20 years. I am 33 years old. I graduated from Ho Chi Minh University of Technology, and I now have a wife and 2 children. From the outside, my life probably looks quite ordinary. I work, raise my children, save money, buy a small piece of land, and try to earn enough to build a house. But deep inside, I am still the little boy who once held his younger sister and cried in a makeshift house, waiting for our mother to come home, not knowing that she had been detained for injuring someone. My parents officially divorced when I was 10 years old. My sister was only 5. Before that, they had already been separated for about 2 years. I do not remember exactly what their arguments were about. It was probably money, because one of my clearest memories is of them selling land and using the money to pay off debts. My father may have been the one who caused those debts. My mother was angry, bitter, and full of resentment. She often cursed at my father and hit him badly. Once, she bit his arm until it bled. My father just stood there. He did not hit her back. Not long after that, he left. He did not completely abandon my sister and me. He still sent money, asked about us, and tried to support our education. But he said he could no longer live with my mother. During the years that followed, my mother always spoke about my father with cruelty and hatred. She insulted him, cursed his family, and repeated old stories as if everything had happened only yesterday. Sometimes, when she lost control, she took her anger out on us. I know she loved us. That was exactly what made everything so confusing. She could hold us in her arms and stay awake all night when we had a fever. She could also hit us, simply because memories of a husband were about to come back. After the divorce, my father met another woman. When my mother found out, she began what I can only describe as her attempt to take revenge on life. She started seeing a man who worked at the court where my parents' divorce had been processed. That man already had a wife. One day, his wife came directly to our house. I still remember the woman standing in the yard screaming insults. I remember furniture being knocked around. My mother shouting back.
After that incident, my mother felt she could no longer stay in the area. She sold the house and took my sister and me somewhere else. The 3 of us lived temporarily on a stranger's land and built a tiny shelter just strong enough to keep out the rain and sun. My mother had no stable job. My father sent around 150,000 to 200,000 Vietnamese dong each week, which was during 2003 and 2004. It was not enough for 3 people to survive and for both children to stay in school. Some days, our meals consisted only of wild vegetables, snails, or frogs that I caught in the fields with the neighbors. I still remember how happy I felt whenever I brought a little food home, even though my hands and feet were covered in mud. At the time, my only thought was that the 3 of us would have something to eat that night. Poverty pushed my mother into another decision. She began seeing a married man who worked cutting trees for hire. Sometimes he gave her money, bought rice, or helped with basic expenses. In return, she accepted a relationship in which she knew she would never have a proper place or an official title. As I grew older, I began to understand what was happening, and I objected several times. One day, in the middle of an argument, my mother shouted at me,
The only thing left for me to do is sell my body so I can afford to keep the two of you in school. Or maybe I should make you quit school and go to work because I cannot support you anymore." That sentence stayed with me for years. I knew my mother was suffering. I knew she had sacrificed many things so that we could eat and continue going to school. But I was only a child. I was not old enough to tell the difference between sacrifice and wrongdoing. I only knew that I was terrified of being forced to leave school. That was when I began thinking about asking to live with my father's family. Going to live with my paternal relatives did not mean I would live with my father. He already had a new family and had held a large wedding. But it was at that wedding that my mother did something I will never forget. Even though they were already divorced, she went to my father's wedding alone and caused a scene. During the chaos, she stabbed one of my father's relatives with a knife. Fortunately, the wound was not life-threatening. My mother was detained for 1 week. My father was the one who asked the authorities not to pursue the case further. He said that if she remained in custody, there would be no one to care for my sister and me. But during that week, we had no idea what had happened. We were 2 children left alone in a tiny house, not knowing where our mother had gone or when she would come home. At night, my little sister cried because she was afraid. I was afraid too, but I held her and lied, telling her that our mother had gone away for work and would return in a few days. We survived because our neighbors brought us food. One person gave us a bowl of rice, another brought a little braised fish, and someone else stopped by to ask whether we needed anything. Even now, I still remember the kindness of those strangers who did not let us go hungry. When my mother finally came home, I learned what had happened. I was in 7th grade that year. I decided to ask to live with my paternal grandparents.
I did not hate my mother. I was simply afraid that if I stayed, one day I would be forced to quit school or witness more things that no child should ever have to see. From then on, I lived with my father's family, while my sister stayed with our mother. We began living 2 different lives. My father and his family supported my education relatively well. My sister remained with my mother and continued seeing different men enter and leave our mother's life. My father was not much different. After another marriage, he divorced again and started seeing another woman. Throughout my school years, I lost count of how many new men and women I was introduced to as my parents' partners. Each time, I tried to behave normally and greet them politely, but inside, I kept asking myself the same question. How can adults start over so easily while their children have to carry the old pain for the rest of their lives? I used to blame my parents for being selfish, for thinking only about their own feelings and not about what my sister and I had to endure. But I also cannot say that they completely neglected us. My father still paid for our food and education. My mother never abandoned us. Whenever we were sick or injured, she was always the first person to panic and rush to our side. Perhaps that is why I have never known whether to love them or resent them. Later, my sister left school after 9th grade and married young. My mother and the last man she lived with, whom we called our stepfather, arranged the wedding for her. My father did not attend. He was angry because he believed my sister had quit school, married too early, had no future, and had failed to live up to his expectations. After that, my father and sister stopped speaking to each other. She now has 2 children, but my father has never met them. Fortunately, my sister married into a kind family. Her husband's family treats her well, and they are financially stable enough that she does not have to struggle constantly for food and basic expenses the way she did while growing up with our mother. As for me, I got married about 2 years after graduation. I was 25. I paid for nearly everything myself, using my savings and money borrowed from friends. There was no traditional bridal procession. I had no house where I could hold the ceremony. My father and mother both had separate lives, and my paternal grandparents' home was the ancestral house, maintained through contributions from all my aunts and uncles, so I could not use it for my own wedding. We simply held a meal at a restaurant, and that was it. Sometimes, when I saw other people's parents arranging every table, ceremony, and detail for their children's weddings, I felt sad. But I understood my situation, so I never dared to ask for more. I married young, but perhaps it was not because I was ready. Maybe I was simply too lonely and desperately wanted to know what it felt like to live in a normal family. My wife's family is completely different from mine.
Her parents are ordinary working people, but they are very loving toward each other. I have never seen them insult or curse at one another. Whenever something happens, they sit down and talk about it.
The family meals where everyone is present, the way my parents-in-law ask about each other, and the way they care for their children and grandchildren make me feel both admiration and sadness. Sometimes I think I married early because I wanted to become part of a home like theirs. Today, my mother came to visit my second child, who had just turned 1 month old. My wife and baby are currently staying with her parents so they can help take care of them. My mother traveled a long distance just to see her grandchild, but she could not afford to buy the baby a gift. It was not because she did not want to. She simply had no money. My mother is almost 60. She has no house, no husband, and almost no property. The man who lived with her during the later years of her life died 3 years ago. Because they were never legally married, after his death, she was treated like a stranger by his family. Recently, his child also cut ties with my mother after an argument. She now lives alone in a small rented room. She has only a few million dong left in her bank account for food and rent. My sister and I send her some money every month. My sister has her own family. I am raising 2 small children, still living in a rented house, and although I have bought a small piece of land, I do not yet have enough money to build a home. While visiting us, my mother kept walking around the baby's crib, looking at her grandchild and smiling. At one point, she gently touched the baby's foot and said, "Grandma could not buy you anything. Please do not be angry with me when you grow up." I had to turn my face away when I heard that. When I took her to the coach station, I slipped some extra money into her hand. She refused at first and told me that I still had children to raise and should keep the money for my own family. Only after I insisted did she accept it. She folded it carefully and placed it inside her worn-out wallet. Before getting on the coach, she asked me, "When you have a house one day, will you let me live with you?" I was silent for a few seconds before answering. "We will talk about that later." She only said, "All right," and did not ask again. Watching her climb onto the coach, I felt that she was truly pitiful. She is a woman nearing the end of her life. She once had a family, a house, a husband, and children. Now she lives in a rented room, and everything she owns fits into a few bags. She survives mostly on money sent by her children. But whenever I think about bringing her into my home, all the old memories return. I remember the screaming, the beatings, the jealous wife coming to our yard, the makeshift house in the fields, the week my sister and I were left without our mother, and the sentence about making me quit school because she could no longer support me. I am afraid that one day, during an argument, I will bring up those memories. I am afraid I will ask her why she did not choose another path. Even if we had been poor, even if we had eaten nothing but rice porridge and wild vegetables, was there truly no other way to raise us without forcing us to grow up surrounded by bears, violence, and adult conflicts? I'm also afraid that she will become bitter at me, insist that everything she did was for her children. Accuse me of being ungrateful. I love my mother very much.
But I also resent her very much. People say the past is over and that we should let it go. But for me, the past never disappeared. It is hidden in the way I react whenever I hear adults arguing. It makes me panic whenever my wife and I have a disagreement. It makes me constantly remind myself that I must never become like my parents. I know my mother suffered. Perhaps she was also a victim of poverty, betrayal, and choices that seem to offer no way out. But does a person who has been hurt have the right to hurt her own children? The coach carrying my mother had already left the station, but I remained standing there. My phone vibrated. She had sent me a short message. "I will call when I arrive. Take good care of your wife and children. Do not worry about me." I read it again and again, but I did not know how to reply. I want to bring my mother home and give her a place to live during the final years of her life.
but I am also afraid that her presence will drag my small family back into the life I have spent more than 20 years trying to escape. If I do not let my mother live with me, does that make me an ungrateful son? But if I bring her into my home, who can promise that the old wounds will not hurt all of us again? I love my mother very much, but even now, I still do not know how to love her in the right way.
Every secret has a weight, and tonight, we shared just a piece of it. What would you do if you were in their shoes? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single one. If this story kept you on the edge of your seat, please give it a like and share it with someone who loves a good mystery. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button to join our anonymous circle. Thank you for listening to Hidden Confessions. Keep your secrets safe. Until next time.